The loudest one in the room is not always the strongest. In fact, most times, the one who says the least is carrying the most weight. Silence is not the absence of power. It's the mastery of it. It's not about withholding words because you're unsure. It's about knowing your words are valuable and you don't just throw diamonds into the wind. You keep them until the time is right. In a world where everyone is broadcasting their every move, silence has become a forgotten strength. We're living in a generation obsessed with showing, telling, flaunting. If someone starts a project, they post it. If someone has an idea, they announce it. And in all this noise, people start believing that visibility equals progress. But that's a lie. Loud doesn't mean strong. Visible doesn't mean wise. Noise doesn't equal movement. And silence doesn't mean nothing's happening. When you build in silence, you eliminate distraction. You stay focused. You stop chasing validation and start chasing purpose. Because when you're silent, you're not looking over your shoulder wondering who's watching. You're locked in. You're dialed in. You're doing it for the outcome, not the audience. That's strategy. That's control. That's choosing to walk when others are running just to be seen. Silence keeps you unpredictable. See, when people don't know what you're working on, they can't sabotage it. They can't talk you out of it. They can't put fear in it. But when you let everyone in on your blueprint, you invite their opinions, their doubt, their insecurities, and suddenly what was once clear in your spirit becomes cloudy in your mind. Not because you were wrong, but because you let too many wrong voices in. You allowed noise to replace your own clarity. You gave the world a front row seat to something that wasn't ready to be seen yet. There's a reason seeds grow underground. There's a reason soldiers train in quiet before the war. Because the preparation doesn't need attention, it needs dedication. The growth doesn't need to be posted. It needs to be protected. Real strength doesn't have to prove itself every 5 minutes. It knows what it carries. And that's what silence teaches you. Silence is how you move when you're done trying to convince people who don't get it. It's how you walk when you realize your path was never meant for a crowd. Not everyone needs to understand. Not everyone needs to clap. Not everyone needs to co-sign your mission. Sometimes silence is you telling the world, I'm working on something too big to explain. It's funny. People always assume that if you're quiet, you're unsure. That if you're not bragging, you're not doing. But the most dangerous people are the ones who say nothing and keep showing up. The ones who move with purpose, not with noise. The ones who let their success make the noise for them. Because when your work is strong enough, you don't have to say anything. You walk into a room and people feel it. They feel the focus, the grind, the discipline. And you didn't have to post a single update. It takes a different kind of strength to hold back when you could show off. It takes discipline to not respond to every critic, to not prove yourself to every doubter. But that's what silence does. It trains you to be above reaction, to stop performing and start producing, to move because it matters, not because it looks good. The truth is, silence saves energy. Talking takes it, explaining takes it, defending takes it. But when you choose silence, you choose conservation. You keep your power to yourself. You store it up and you release it in your work, your actions, your results. Silence isn't the weakness people think it is. It's the pause before the strike. It's the breath before the blow. It's the calm before the thunder. When you move in silence, you develop humility. You stop feeding off attention and start feeding off discipline. And suddenly, you're not looking for a hand clap. You're focused on the next step. You don't need the credit. You need the completion. You're not posting for engagement. You're preparing for impact. That's how people miss you while you're working and then can't ignore you when you arrive. The problem is most people want the crown before the character. They want the credit before the consistency. But when you understand silence as strategy, you stop rushing to be seen. You realize that what you're building can't be rushed. That solid work takes time. That mastery comes in the shadows. And when you finally emerge, it's not just with noise. It's with power and presence. presence and undeniable proof that while they were watching others, you were working. While they were clapping for moments, you were creating momentum. And you didn't need to say a word. Growth isn't something you need to announce. It's something that shows up in the way you carry yourself, in the way you respond, in the way you endure. You don't have to go around telling people who you're becoming when you're really becoming it. Real growth doesn't need marketing. It reveals itself through presence, through power, through quiet transformation that cannot be denied. You don't have to scream your progress when your presence already whispers it with authority. We live in a world obsessed with telling what we're doing, what we're planning, what we're feeling. But too often that need to explain ourselves, to be understood, to be praised, becomes a trap. It becomes a distraction from the actual work. People spend more time talking about becoming something than they do becoming it. And they mistake validation for achievement. But growth isn't validated by likes. It's proven in silence. It's proven when no one's watching, and you still keep pushing, still keep working, still keep evolving without the need for recognition. See, when you're really growing, you start to realize how little you need to explain yourself. You stop arguing with people about your worth. You stop debating with folks who haven't walked a day in your shoes. You realize that growth shows up in the way you move, not in the words you speak. You begin to understand that every response doesn't need to be given. Every attack doesn't need a counter. Every misunderstanding doesn't need your correction. Growth is when you outgrow the need to prove yourself. When you start trusting that time and consistency will tell the story better than your voice ever could. Sometimes the loudest mouth in the room is the most insecure, because when you really know who you are, when you're really doing the work, when you're truly evolving, you don't feel the need to convince anyone. You're too busy becoming. You're too busy building. You're too focused on what's next to get caught up in who sees you now. That's the difference. People who are growing for real are grounded. They're not obsessed with attention. They're invested in transformation. There's something powerful about a person who chooses restraint over reaction, someone who lets their growth speak before they do. You ever meet someone and you can just feel they've changed? Not because they said it, but because their energy is different. Their posture is different. Their presence hits different. That's real growth. It announces itself without a sound. It changes rooms without a warning. That kind of growth doesn't need to be advertised. It needs to be protected. It's sacred, and not everyone is meant to witness it. The truth is, not everybody is going to understand your process. Some people are so used to the old you that they'll try to drag you back into conversations that no longer fit. They'll try to bait you to proving you've changed. But when you've really grown, you realize that the best response is no response. That silence in the face of small talk is the greatest declaration of evolution. That walking away without explaining yourself is sometimes the loudest statement you'll ever make. Let your growth speak. Let it speak through the way you handle pressure. Let it speak through your discipline, your consistency, your calm. Let it speak through your excellence, through your actions, through your refusal to settle. Because when it's real, it doesn't need a megaphone. It doesn't need a spotlight. It just shows. People will start noticing you've changed without you ever having to say it. They'll start treating you different, asking questions, wondering how you got here, and you won't have to say a word. Your life will answer for you. Growth is internal before it's ever external. You don't need to wait for applause to know you're moving forward. You don't need validation to stay on course. You just need truth. You just need to stay rooted in your why. You just need to keep doing the work when no one's clapping, when no one's watching, when it's just you and the silence and the grind. Because if you keep showing up, if you keep evolving, your results will do the talking. Your presence will shift atmospheres. And your past will no longer be able to speak louder than your progress. So hold your head high, stay grounded, and keep becoming. Don't argue with the noise. Don't chase the need to be seen. Don't waste time proving who you are. Let your growth speak, and let it speak so loudly through your life that even your silence becomes undeniable. Not everyone will understand the fire that's been placed inside you, and that's okay. Not everyone is supposed to. Some people were never meant to see what you see or believe in what you're building. Your vision is sacred. It was personal. It was given to you, not the world. That means not everyone will clap. Not everyone will agree. And the moment you try to force people with small minds to understand a vision built for big purpose, you begin to shrink what was never meant to be limited. There's danger in exposure. The more you share your vision with people who lack capacity, the more you open the door to confusion, doubt, and unnecessary resistance. Because some people won't attack your vision out of logic. They'll attack it out of fear. They'll project their own limitations onto your dream. They'll measure your path with their small ruler, and suddenly something that once felt limitless starts to feel far away. Not because it lost power, but because you let someone without vision speak on what they cannot see. You've got to know the value of protecting your vision. Every dream doesn't need to be shared. Every idea doesn't need to be explained. Sometimes silence is your shield. Sometimes privacy is your protection. And if you're not careful, you'll start letting too many opinions sit at your table, feeding off your faith, draining your energy, and convincing you to settle for less than what you were created to pursue. Small minds don't always come in obvious forms. They can come dressed in smiles, in familiarity, in people you love. It's not always hate. It's limitation. Some folks genuinely can't see past what they've known. They've lived in fear for so long. They can't imagine what it means to move in faith. So when you start talking about doing something different, something bigger, something bold, they flinch, they panic, and they try to pull you back into the box they've lived in because stepping out makes them uncomfortable. Your courage exposes their complacency. Your movement shakes their stillness. And instead of growing with you, they try to hold you in place. That's why discernment is everything. You can't take everybody with you. You can love people deeply and still keep your dream protected. You can honor the relationships in your life and still understand that some conversations are too costly to have because what you're building needs your full belief. It needs your clarity. And if you keep opening the door to voices that weren't meant to be part of your foundation, you'll end up constructing a house based on insecurity instead of vision. You've got to guard your dream like it's treasure because it is. Don't cast your vision into spaces that can't nurture it. Don't try to harvest wisdom from people who've never planted anything themselves. Some folks only know how to survive. They don't know what it means to build. So when you come talking about purpose and elevation and calling, they'll think you're crazy. That doesn't mean stop. That means you're talking to the wrong people. Learn how to carry the weight of your dream in silence until it's strong enough to stand on its own. Let the roots grow deep before you show the leaves. Let the foundation settle before you invite others to see what you're creating. Because once you expose it, it becomes vulnerable. And the last thing you need is to waste strength. You're defending something that should have been developing in peace. Your vision will cost you. It will demand sacrifice, discipline, and solitude. And part of that cost is learning how to walk alone when necessary. Part of that cost is accepting that some people you love will not understand. And that's not your fault. Your job is not to convince them. Your job is to protect what's been placed inside of you, to honor the calling, to nurture it with discipline, to speak life into it, even when no one else does. And eventually, if you stay consistent, the same people who doubted will watch what you built. They'll witness the fruit of your faith, and they won't be able to deny the power of the vision you once protected in silence. But until that day comes, keep building, keep believing, keep protecting what was meant for you, not for their approval, because your vision is bigger than their imagination. And that's not arrogance, that's responsibility. Greatness doesn't begin with a spotlight. It doesn't start on a stage or under applause. It begins in the dark, where nobody sees you, where nobody is clapping, where nobody is calling your name. It begins in quiet moments when you're wrestling with self-doubt, pushing past fear, choosing discipline over comfort, and rising again after every fall. That's where the real work lives. That's where greatness is born. In the unseen, in the uncomfortable, in the silence. Everybody wants to be seen, but not everybody wants to be forged. People chase visibility like it's the prize, but they forget the prize is built in the shadows. It's built when you're putting in the work after everyone else has gone to sleep. When you're studying, training, grinding, sacrificing, and nobody's watching. That's the soil of greatness. The dark, the lonely, the quiet space where you're developing into something the world isn't ready for yet. And that's the part most people skip because it's not glamorous, but it's necessary. You don't grow under the spotlight. You grow in obscurity. You grow when there's no one telling you to keep going and you do it anyway. You grow when you're overlooked, underestimated, and still refuse to quit. You grow, you learn to trust the process without needing to see results immediately. The dark is not punishment. It's preparation. It's where you're stripped of ego, stripped of noise, stripped of distraction until all that's left is purpose. Seeds don't grow in the sun. They're buried deep under pressure in the cold, silent dirt. But what's happening beneath the surface is powerful. That seed is breaking. It's expanding. It's forming roots that no one can see. And the deeper those roots grow, the stronger the future tree will be. That's you. That's your process. The dark is where your roots are getting strong enough to carry the weight of the dream that's coming. People want the crown, but they don't want the crushing. They want the success, but they don't want the silence. But the ones who truly rise are the ones who learned how to stay in the dark long enough to grow. They didn't rush the process. They didn't need immediate applause. They were patient. They understood that what happens in the dark is what sustains you in the light. See, the spotlight will expose you if you haven't built a foundation deep enough to carry it. Fame, recognition, opportunity, they can all become burdens if you haven't been shaped properly behind the scenes. The dark teaches you how to be rooted before you're visible. It forces you to find identity outside of praise. It humbles you. It molds you. It breaks down everything false and replaces it with strength, with character, with resilience. Some of your greatest breakthroughs won't come from being seen. They'll come from being hidden. When nobody's calling you, when no one's checking in, when it's just you, your dream, and your discipline. That's when you decide whether this is real or not. That's when you find out if you're committed or just curious. Because if you can't survive the dark, you're not ready for the light. There's something sacred about those seasons of isolation. You start learning yourself. You hear your own voice clearer. You develop the habits that will hold you steady when things get loud later. You stop needing attention to stay focused. You stop needing approval to feel valuable. You start becoming, not for anyone else, but for you, for your calling. For the person you're meant to be. That's why the dark matters. That's why it's not a season to avoid. It's a season to embrace because it's working for you. It's strengthening you. It's stretching you. And one day, when the time is right, when the roots are deep enough, when the foundation is unshakable, you'll rise. And you won't rise shaky or unsure. You'll rise steady. You'll rise ready. And when the light finds you, it won't break you. It will reveal you. But until that moment comes, don't despise the dark. Don't rush to be seen. Don't envy someone else's spotlight if you haven't done your own shadow work. Stay in it. Show up every day. Plant yourself. Grow. And when your season comes, the world won't be able to ignore what you've become because greatness grows in the dark. And when it finally reaches the light, it's undeniable. So if you've been building in silence, and if you've been growing when no one's watching, if you've been protecting your vision in the face of doubt, if you've been stretching in the dark with no applause, don't stop. Don't get discouraged just because no one sees it yet. Don't water down your purpose just because small minds don't understand it. Don't give up. Just the process is quiet, lonely, or slow. The ones who truly rise are the ones who stayed rooted when it felt like nothing was happening. Your silence is not empty. It's sacred. Your discipline is not wasted. It's foundational, and your time is coming. Stay focused. Stay grounded. Stay faithful. Because when your moment arrives, they won't just see what you've become. They'll feel everything you endured to get there. Let your life speak so loud that you'll never have to raise your voice. Build yourself quietly, and one day the world will hear you clearly.